When the financial crisis hit in 2008, a bewildered public struggled to understand what had just happened. This was an extreme situation, no doubt. But when it comes to economics in general and how to become rich in particular, many of us still labor under a number of misconceptions. For instance, most people still believe that the way to get rich is to get a degree, find a good job, and work hard. As I will show you, nothing could be further from the truth. Not even a well-paid job will make you rich, because our current financial system is simply not set up that way. There is only one way to get truly wealthy: by owning and capitalizing on assets. And in this video, I will teach you how to do it. The phrase "the poor get poorer and the rich get richer" may sound like a line from a cowboy movie, but in the United States, it's never been more true. Regular people are robbed of their wealth because the system is based on inflation. Inflation is not good for the average person. It means the money they've worked hard to earn is suddenly less valuable. To make things worse, inflation pushes people to save more money, but that contributes to more inflation. When you save money in a bank, the bank lends it out to borrowers. But banks lend out way more money than they get in deposits. Before the 2007 crash, banks could lend out $34 for every $1 they actually had. But this increased money supply leads to inflation, making your $1 worth much less. This risky lending periodically results in financial bubbles, and the monetary system deals with them through bailouts. Bailout money comes from taxpayers. This is another way the current monetary system creates poverty. But bailouts and inflation harm only those who earn a paycheck. These are the groups that pay the high taxes and tend to keep their savings in the bank. That's why the middle class is shrinking so rapidly. In 1970, 50.3% of Americans had a middle-class income, but by 2010, that figure dropped to 42.2%. There are various perspectives on wealth, but one thing is clear: everyone wants to get rich. Unfortunately, schools teach people how to be poor instead. Modern education is designed to turn people into employees and taxpayers. People often assume that education is the solution to poverty. If you study harder, you'll get a better job and earn more. But it's not that straightforward. You might hold multiple master's degrees and still find yourself without a job and struggling financially. There's certainly nothing wrong with being a hardworking tax-paying citizen, but they alone won't make you rich. Schools typically don't equip students with the knowledge needed to make money. They lack financial education. This lack of education leaves many vulnerable to financial crises. For instance, the 2007 crisis is often seen as a stock market crash, but in fact, it was a derivatives market crash. Derivatives are complex and risky insurance policies that formed a significant part of the market at that time. With better financial education, people might have recognized the risks in the derivatives market, anticipating the eventual crash and preparing for similar challenges in the future. The absence of education also leads to misconceptions about money and wealth. Some mistakenly believe that rich people are inherently evil and intentionally make others poor. While this may be true in some cases, it's not a universal truth. Some people amass wealth by being generous, and John Rockefeller was one example. He became rich by offering gas at more affordable prices than his competitors, thereby improving the lives of millions of working-class individuals who previously lacked access to gas. When people say you need to be educated to be wealthy, they usually mean you need to go to university and get a degree. What you actually need is financial education. Financial education means looking beyond traditional explanations and gaining the knowledge necessary to create more assets, and it has the power to make you wealthy. In the past, slaves weren't allowed to read and write, because it would have given them too much power over their owners. These days, most people are deprived of financial education for the same reason. Real wealth isn't about getting a big paycheck. That's another misconception. It's about having assets that put money into your pocket without you having to work for them, and you need education to know how to create them. If you buy an old house, then repair it and start renting it out, you'll have created an asset. You'll get rent from the tenants without having to work for it. Moreover, the government rewards assets with lower tax rates, so that'll increase the wealth you bring in. People who haven't been educated on finance think in terms of income and expenses instead. That's why they often mistake liabilities for assets. Many people see their own house as an asset, for instance. It's actually a liability because it takes away your money through mortgage payments and taxes. You might think it's easy to determine whether someone is rich or poor, but it's actually not that simple. You can still be poor even if you live in a nice house and drive an expensive car. If you want to change your financial situation, you first need to know where you stand. You need an income statement, where you write down your income and expenses, and a balance sheet where you keep track of your assets and liabilities. For example, imagine you have a job that pays $10,000 per month and an apartment you rent out for $1,000 per month. You also pay $2,000 in mortgage payments every month and lease a Ferrari for $1,000 per month. Most people would assume that all of those things are assets, but actually, the sole asset is the apartment. The other things cost you money or require you to work for them. The best way to plan for the future is to choose between the 4 asset classes. After you've assessed your financial situation, it's time to focus on acquiring new assets, even if you don't know how yet. The 4 asset classes are business, real estate, paper, and commodities. Choose the one you're most interested in. It makes a difference when you're working with something you care about. Acquiring assets is the first step toward your new wealthier future. Now, let's look at how you set about it. As we've seen, having a degree doesn't necessarily make you wealthier. Financial education is the key to success, but where do you actually start studying? First, you need to figure out what kind of future you want for yourself. Remember, being wealthy isn't the most important thing in life. Some people are much happier working a regular job for their entire life than tackling a high-powered career. But if you do want to be wealthy, a regular job won't get you there, so think about the future that suits you best, then aim for it. If you're looking to be wealthy and financially independent, you have to let go of your employee mentality and get into big business or professional investing. And you can't succeed in big business or professional investing without the right education for it. You need the traits of an entrepreneur. One of the key differences between entrepreneurs and those who are self-employed is that entrepreneurs are generalists, meaning they know a little about a wide range of topics and hire specialists to deal with the rest. That's because when entrepreneurs start a business, they're responsible for every part of it, from developing the product to leading the team. So don't specialize in a single field if you want to be an entrepreneur. Learn a bit about all the things that make a business work, like team building and leadership skills, for instance. Strive to cooperate instead of compete. The employee mentality makes people think they have to compete with their colleagues to get ahead, but that's not the kind of thinking you want in your team. A skilled entrepreneur knows how to guide the group to success. One of the biggest differences between rich and poor people is their intelligence, but it's not the kind of intelligence measured in school. You're considered smart in school if you have a good memory and learn to read and write quickly, but in the real world, different skills help you get ahead. For entrepreneurs, intelligence is all about handling risks and financial losses, learning from mistakes and staying level-headed. Entrepreneurs build their businesses from the ground up using practical skills that are much more important than remembering who the 36th president was. So how do you acquire those skills? You learn from a coach or a friend, or by taking a course from an expert. Then improve your abilities by practicing them. We learn when we do. It's experience that stays in our memory, not information we've memorized for a written test. And doing often means taking the wrong turn, miscalculating or making errors that we'll never make again thanks to a bad experience. In school, we're punished for our mistakes. We're made to believe that only stupid people make them. But the truth is the exact opposite. Most people follow simple rules regarding debt. Work hard, stay out of debt, and you'll be okay. But as an entrepreneur, debt might be your new best friend. Debt can actually be a powerful tool for gaining leverage. Most people assume that if they work harder, they'll earn more and become rich. In fact, the opposite often happens. They fall into a higher tax rate and earn even less. If you want to become wealthy, find ways to do more with less. Think about a musician who moves from only playing live shows to selling his music albums. He is getting his music to more people by doing less work. Debt can help you in a similar way. In the finance world, it can be powerful because it allows you to do things you don't otherwise have the savings to do. So, use debt to create assets for yourself. Traditional thinking says you should work hard, save money and buy assets without loans, but it doesn't work like that. Most people can't save enough to buy valuable assets. It makes much more sense to create them by taking out loans. Before we finish, remember that the current monetary system robs you, and the education system keeps you from learning how to stop this happening. If you want to become wealthy, figure out what asset class works best for you, then research it and acquire your assets by going into debt. Steer yourself toward the future you want.